on this beautiful autumn winter day in Alaska. You can see still got a few leaves on the trees out there. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about walking and suffering. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I put a little article, a little note on the forum, the Camino forum, about walking and suffering. And it got a lot of responses. Evidently, a lot of people have different ideas of what suffering is. And it was interesting to see all the responses I got from it. So I thought I would talk a little bit about it today on the Camino. First of all, I'll just open with a definition here of suffering. And, we all kind of know what it is, but here's what I think it's the Webster's Dictionary says. It says, the state of being in great trouble, distress, and distress implies an external and usually temporary cause of great physical or mental strain and stress. Okay, there's also a spiritual definition that's a little bit different, but I won't get into that. But my idea of suffering is something that kind of gets in your way, an obstruction to doing something you want to do, something you like to do. For example, and you get a lot of that on the Camino, believe it or not. Suffering, when I'm talking about suffering, I'm talking about blisters and people who are walking on pavement for a long period of time. They get kind of sick of it and hurt, and their feet hurt. And even mental distress of walking somewhere they don't want, like through a industrial area. A lot of videos that I watched were people walking through industrial areas, and we're going to miss that spot because it's just ugly and they didn't like it. And that's a type of distress more than anything. It's a little bit of suffering if you're walking through something that you don't want to do. But if you have blisters and your feet are hurting and all that, it all kind of adds up. So anyway, here's my quick story about suffering. My very first Camino, the first 3 days you're just gung-ho and you're ready to do it, and you're just out there having a great time, and you're going as fast as you can or as slow as you can, and you're just talking and having a good time. And then about the fourth or fifth day, you start developing some problems. You start getting a little sore, and you wake up in the morning and you go, I cannot go. I just cannot move out of this bed. And then you get up and you force yourself to do it, and you take off and you're limping along. And this happened to me I was doing the Camino Norte, and it's about my fourth or fifth day, and I'd been running into these Italians, and a whole group of them. And so I think it was the fifth or sixth day, I could barely get out of bed. And I got up and I got dressed and I did a couple of exercises, and I limped out at the door with my pack on, and I'm going, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And that's what I call suffering a little bit. It may not be the true, definition of suffering, but you want to go out there and walk, but you're just so sore you can't do it. So here's what I did. I got out the door and I saw the Italian family walk by, and they usually go really slow, and I was always passing them along the way and all that. So what I did is I hung back behind them, and I let them do all the navigation, all the work. They didn't even know I was back there. And I was just trudging along, limping, trudging along. And I did that all day long. They would stop and talk about stuff, where to go, blah, blah, blah. And I'd just kind of sit back and wait for them to go, and then I'd start again when they started. Did that, and made it through that day. Next day, I think I did something very similar. And I did that for about, 4 or 5 days. And I was in agony. And I really was wondering why it was on the Camino. And so here's the thing about the message that I want to give you, if you will, about suffering. We all suffer. It's inevitable. In life, the whole cycle of life, you're going to suffer. Every one of you have suffered. I'll guarantee it in some way. Now, my idea of this is when you're out there on the Camino and you're suffering, the idea is to try to work through the suffering the best you can. And here's why. Because if you do, you'll be the stronger person for it. And I tell you, after those 5 days, 4 days of kind of slowly loping, not really loping, staggering behind the Italian people, the third or fourth week, I mean, I was the strongest I've ever felt in my entire life. I mean, everything just smoothed out for me. I worked through it. I got through it. I didn't give up. You know, I was there to walk the Camino, and I decided I was going to walk it. Nothing against taking a taxi. Nothing against walking your own Camino. What my message today is that if you work through some of this pain and this suffering and keep doing what you're doing, there's going to be some light at the end of that tunnel, and then you're going to feel stronger. You're going to feel better about yourself, and you're going to be walking on clouds, basically. I mean, when I say smoothed out, I mean physically, you know, everything, mentally, emotionally, you know, socially, everything just kind of smoothed out and came to. And it was a struggle. It was a suffering. It was struggling through some suffering. And so that's kind of my message today of all of you who are walking the Camino, maybe for your first time. There's going to be some suffering involved, and everyone's going to handle it a little bit differently. What I'm saying that if you stick with it and try to, you know, even if you have blisters and you know you can't walk, even if you just stayed in that one spot in that area in that city for a couple of days longer, you know, you may cut your Camino a little short, but then again, you may not. But I think that's a better way to handle suffering than to like jump into a taxi or, you know, head or just plain give up. They say don't quit the Camino when you're having a bad day. But like I said, everyone's going to handle this a little bit differently. And my remedy for anyone who's walking it and suffering is to, you know, walk slower. Get behind someone and just kind of stagger along, but try to complete it. I mean, you sacrifice a lot for being on that pilgrimage. At least most of us do. I know I do. When I go, I'm sacrificing I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, and it's hard to get someone to cover for me as a priest out here. And I sacrifice a lot. It costs a little bit of money, a little bit of time to go there. And, you know, I want to make it happen. And the working through suffering is one way to do that. Just first of all, know that you're probably going to be in a little bit of pain. It's not going to be something that's going to kill you or anything, but to work through it will make you a stronger person, and it'll make your pilgrimage more enriching. And, you know, I think you feel a lot better about yourself. Like I said, here's the remedy for working through suffering. Stay where you're at a little bit. Ask people around you how, you know, if you have blisters or something, ask them, you know, can you help me with this? Go to a pharmacy, ask them, you know, take an extra day off, 2 or 3, walk slowly, you know, just try to work through it. And of course, you know, if you can't work through it and it just gets too unbearable, well then, yeah, you know, but just give it the old college try. That's all I'm saying is don't let the suffering get you the first couple of days. Just keep working and working at it. And boy, I'll tell you, it really helped me. I don't know what kept me going. I think I prayed a lot because I was hurting that first Camino, and I didn't know if I was going to make it. And like I said, something about just keeping going and working through it, you know, it helps, and it makes you stronger for it. Okay, I'm going to quit rambling on, and I hope you all have a great Camino out there. And if you are suffering right now, you know, take it easy, work through it, and you'll be the stronger person for it. Adios.